Plastic never goes away. It only changes address. In 1988, the world stumbled upon one of the most disgraceful wonders of contemporary history, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, GPGP. This gargantuan island of plastic floating in the North Pacific is no mere myth. According to the latest reports from the ocean cleanup, it spans a staggering 1.6 million square kilometers, nearly 3 times the size of Thailand and triple the landmass of France. Within this kingdom of waste lies at least 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic, outnumbering the stars in the Milky Way tenfold. It is a malignant tumor spreading through 5 major ocean gyres across the globe, silently suffocating every corner of our blue planet. But let's be brutally honest. When you stand at a convenience store counter and the clerk asks, "Would you like a bag?" your brain doesn't immediately flash to images of a plastic-choked island in the middle of the sea. You aren't thinking of sea turtles dying from plastic straws or scholarly journals detailing microplastics found in human placentas. Instead, you perform a rapid, primal calculation. If I don't take the bag, I'll be fumbling with these items. Things might drop, my hands aren't enough. My life becomes inconvenient right this second. In that same breath, a comforting narrative follows. The world has come so far. Surely, technology will fix this. Some brilliant scientist will figure it out. Humanity has survived worse, right? We'll pull through. Better to just enjoy life and not get paralyzed by every little thing. This mindset isn't evil, nor is it born of selfishness or ignorance. It is the psychological blueprint of the modern human. And you are far from alone. Data from the OECD shows that a vast majority of the global population believes future technology will solve environmental crises without requiring us to fundamentally change our lifestyles, even as we admit that living green feels like an exhausting burden. This is the true starting point of the plastic story, not an ideal, not a sermon, but the weary, half-believing, half-evading hope of ordinary people. Plastic wasn't born a villain. In all fairness, plastic didn't start its journey as the world's antagonist. Quite the opposite. It was once hailed as the savior of the natural world. In the late 19th century, humanity was devouring resources with reckless abandon. Elephant tusks were carved into billiard balls, tortoise shells were stripped for jewelry, and vast forests were razed to feed the industrial machine. The birth of synthetic plastics like Bakelite in 1907 provided a miracle alternative, a material that didn't require the slaughter of animals or the leveling of woods. In its infancy, plastic was a symbol of progress and conservation. But as the world plunged into full-scale industrialization, particularly after World War II, plastic became inextricably linked to mass production. Our current throwaway culture wasn't born from consumer malice. It was engineered by an economic system that sold convenience as a virtue. In 1955, Life magazine famously celebrated throwaway living, a life where nothing needed to be washed, repaired, or kept. Since then, plastic ceased to be just a material. It became the very architecture of our daily lives. It is the material of control, cheap enough to fuel a high-speed world of fast fashion, fast food, and fast living. Today's convenience has become an ecological debt we are forcing future generations to underwrite. The global waste pipeline, exporting the mess. To understand why mountains of plastic waste end up clogging the landscapes of Southeast Asia and Africa, one must look at the cynical architecture of global waste management. For decades, developed Western nations opted for the easiest and cheapest solution, exporting their plastic pollution. This waste, often contaminated or unrecyclable, was bundled onto ships headed for China. For years, China acted as the world's giant dumpster, accepting over half of the planet's internationally traded plastic waste to feed its hungry factories with cheap raw materials. However, in January 2018, the Chinese government executed a geopolitical masterstroke known as the National Sword Policy. They slammed their doors shut, banning almost all imported plastic waste to protect their own environment. This sent shockwaves through the global trade system. With the world's largest gate closed, the massive tide of plastic from the US, Europe, and other wealthy nations was left homeless. According to the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, 2021, and OECD, 2025, the market sought new, low-cost destinations where environmental laws were still fragile and labor was cheap. The flow diverted to Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, and parts of Africa. These nations became the new dumpsters, staggering under the weight of Western prosperity's debris, leading to a rapid spike in pollution and a full-blown crisis of global environmental injustice. The economic spin-off and the hidden trillions. In economic terms, plastic has triggered an incredible spin-off effect, embedding itself into every supply chain. From the automotive industry using lightweight plastics to save fuel, to life-saving medical innovations like blood transfusion kits and prosthetic organs, plastic is more than waste. It is a global GDP driver and a livelihood for millions. Yet, these economic triumphs are tallied without accounting for externalities. A report by the WWF estimates that when you factor in the impacts on the environment, health, and the astronomical costs of waste management, the true cost of plastic reaches trillions of dollars per year. This massive chasm between market value and actual cost allows the system to hum along without ever facing the music. Many pin their hopes on tech, and, to be clear, that hope isn't entirely baseless. Researchers are discovering bacteria and enzymes that can eat plastic, and chemical recycling is evolving. But the Nature Review's microbiology journal warns that these are still largely laboratory fantasies, energy-intensive, and nowhere near ready to handle the 400 million tons produced annually. While we wait for the future to save us, at least 11 million tons of plastic still leak into our oceans every single year. Technology is sprinting, but the crisis is flying. Meanwhile, the industry uses the label recyclable as a shield to deflect guilt, even though only about 9% of all plastic ever made has actually been recycled. High-tech dreams, the circular hope. In the midst of this darkness, we are entering an era of advanced technology that could be a turning point if we have the guts to fund and enforce it. Chemical recycling, which breaks plastic down into its original liquid state, monomers, to create virgin-quality plastic infinitely, offers a glimmer of hope to end the cycle of low-grade waste. Then there is mycelium packaging, mushrooms grown into specific shapes that decompose into fertilizer in weeks, and next-generation bio-based plastics made from seaweed that don't compete for food crops. These aren't just green alternatives, they are the building blocks of a circular economy. This model focuses on generating wealth from the circulation of existing materials rather than the relentless extraction of new ones. Analysts predict this shift could unlock massive new economic value if politicians are brave enough to tighten the screws on fossil fuel-based virgin plastics. Plastic never leaves. It only changes address. The most terrifying truth is that plastic never truly disappears. It just breaks into smaller, more insidious versions of itself, microplastics. These tiny particles absorb toxins and hitchhike into the human body. Recent studies have confirmed microplastics in human blood and even placentas. We are living in a new biological reality. The WWF estimates we might be ingesting a credit card's worth of plastic every week. This is the anthropogenic marker, the geological signature of our era, the Anthropocene. Our children will likely be the first generation in history never to have a body free of plastic, from the womb to the grave. This is a staggering crisis of intergenerational ethics. What right do we have to leave a poisonous legacy for those not yet born? It is a massive debt they never signed for, yet they will pay the interest and toxins for the rest of their lives. The climate catalyst. Beyond health, plastic is a ferocious driver of the climate crisis. The CIL Institute notes that 99% of plastic comes from fossil fuels. By 2050, plastic production alone will consume 13% of the world's remaining carbon budget. Imagine a carbon glass that can only hold so much before it overflows into climate catastrophe. Plastic production is like someone pouring water into that glass until it's nearly full, leaving almost no room for other essential human activities. Worse still, microplastics damage phytoplankton, the very organisms that help pump carbon out of that glass. It is a double-edged sword that slashes at the heart of our climate stability. No one is asking you to save the world alone. This isn't a plea for you to stop using plastic altogether, nor is it a guilt trip for every bag you've ever taken. It's an honest look at a system designed to favor convenience over responsibility. If we stopped producing virgin plastic today, industries would reel, but the pressure would ignite a revolution in reuse and alternative packaging. Options are taking shape. Extended producer responsibility, EPR, laws that force companies to own their waste, and a global shift toward reduction. It isn't a perfect answer, but it's better than waiting for a technological miracle. You can still be happy. You can still choose convenience sometimes. You don't have to carry the weight of the planet on your shoulders. But understanding that today's ease creates tomorrow's chains is the first step toward freedom. Plastic isn't a demon, humans aren't the villain, and technology isn't a hero. We are just caught in a system pushing us in one direction. Seeing the system for what it is might be the only true liberation we have. Because in the end, that island of trash in the Pacific isn't just a distant problem, it's a mirror reflecting every choice we make for ourselves and the world.